I just want to check, how many were not here in the morning? My first talk. Oh, okay. I will rewind very quickly for you. You've missed the science part. So I'll just talk about the science very quickly and then go on to Eastern beliefs, okay? We talked about the ACC in your frontal lobe, and the ACC is responsible for a number of things. It's a very important part of your frontal lobe. It's responsible for love, compassion, empathy, sympathy, altruism, and very importantly, ACC is also the seat of the will and the place we choose right from wrong. So the ACC is a crucial part of God's gift to you. It's about love and your will and knowing right from wrong. Now what happens is, in Yoga Nidra, blood flow, when you do Yoga Nidra, blood flow to the frontal lobe goes down. In other words, you're not getting enough energy, oxygen, you're lethargic, and that's what the report says. Okay, so that's not good for your frontal lobe, and also not good for your ACC. The most common phrase when you research meditation is the frontal cortex goes offline. In other words, your frontal cortex is there, you've got a healthy one, but because of meditation, you are taking it away from its rightful use. All right? The blood flow goes down, and what happens is you're starving it. You're allowing no information to come in. You're thinking of nothing. Silence and nothing for hours. All right? So you're taking it offline. And Andrew Newberg, a researcher, famous researcher, says meditation is based on a frontal lobe and a parietal lobe relationship. Now, when the frontal lobe is starved, it goes offline. What happens? What happens is your parietal lobe, another part of your brain, switches off. And the parietal is what tells you where you are in three-dimensional space. All right? For example, Thomas knows he's about 10 feet from me. He's like 30 feet from the ceiling. Yeah, he knows his broad position, how he's sitting. But then when he meditates and the parietal goes down, he loses all that information and he becomes one with the universe, and the universe is one with him. When that happens, they attribute different terms, different meaning to it. But essentially the same meaning is that you're one with the universe, you're one in union with God. Now God is termed in many senses. The pantheists who don't believe in the person of God say you are one with the universe, you're universally conscious. God is an essence, energy in the flowers and the trees and the air, therefore God is in every man. That is people who don't believe in God the person. Now Christians are now doing it. They believe in God the person. Now they're saying, when the same thing happens, you are in the presence of God the person himself. All right? So it's neurophenomena, dramatic neurophenomena, and suggestion of what it means to the meditator when he feels that way. Now obviously this neurophenomena is not real. So when it happens, the Buddhists say, oh, you're liberated. The Hindus say you're in nirvana. And the Christians say you're in the presence of God. Obviously, it's all neurophenomena. All right? Now, this is the icon of meditation. At one time, as you're meditating, you're a drop of water. And then, as you meditate, and when the parietal goes down, you are one with the universe, with the ocean. That is the icon. Or for those who are not here, meditation is to empty the mind. So when they meditate, they either focus on a mantra, repetitive, because it takes no effort. It causes the mind, it helps the meditator to think of nothing. When a stray thought comes at you, you focus back on your mantra and your mind is blank. Okay? Now, a mantra can be anything. The scientists have tested this. A mantra can be the word Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. It doesn't need to be Christian, it doesn't need to be Chinese or Hindu or whatever. It's just the repetition. Now, when you do your mantra or you do your counting your breath, whatever, you go into, first you're in beta wave. Okay, like now, you're listening to me, you're in fast wave beta, you're trying to understand what I'm saying, you're trying to retain, you're saying I'm going home to check it out. You're in fast wave beta, you're alert. That's good. Don't fall asleep. Because when you begin to meditate, you get more sleep waves. And the first sleep wave you get is alpha wave. Okay? Alpha is a slow wave, slower wave, and as you're falling off to sleep, it's kind of pleasant, right? You're drifting, you're thinking of, oh, when I was in Ipoh, I was doing this, and suddenly you're also in London, you know? So it's a sleep wave and you're drifting. And then you fall asleep, and that's theta wave. So you get more sleep waves. So you begin, your mind is not focusing. And researchers, all right, Brown's University are saying this about alpha waves and talking about mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is a new kind of meditation that doesn't have religion in it, they claim, and it's treatment for depression, it's treatment for stress. Okay? Now, mindfulness, they're looking at it and they're saying when alpha, the sleep wave, oscillations are prominent, your sensory impulses tend to be minimized. Neuroscientists at Brown's University are doing research on how the brain achieves optimal inattention. You're inattentive. You can't focus. But this alpha makes it optimal, makes it even more difficult to focus. All right? Optimize inattention. The Brown researchers hope that teaching people how to harness the power to ignore by creating an alpha brain state through mindfulness. In other words, when you have those sleep waves, your power to ignore your problems is very strong. Okay? So it's the power to ignore, to optimize inattention. That's what they are using it for. Okay, the amygdala. The amygdala is that part of your brain at the back, which is fight or flight. And if your boss works you overtime, or if you're a soldier in war, your amygdala is overactive. You can suffer depression or even post-traumatic stress disorder. You can have nightmares and wake up sweating and so forth and so forth. Now, but in normal people, when they're stressed out, their amygdala is overactive, but when you meditate, the amygdala calms down and you regain your concentration. All right? Now, they did experiments. They had people meditating for 8 weeks, and then they stopped for 3 weeks. After stopping for 3 weeks, they showed them 216 images. Now, they showed them the same pictures, before they meditated. And then after they meditated, and after stopping for 3 weeks, they showed them again the same pictures. And then they tested their reaction. When these people, after stopping meditation for 3 weeks, the delightful pictures are not as delightful as before. The frightening pictures are not as frightening as before. Because their amygdala is very calm. They're sedated. Now, if you are losing your concentration, you're overstressed, and you got back your concentration, you feel good. But now you say to yourself, hey, maybe I should do more meditation. Now, if you did more meditation, will it give you a lift to your life? Will it? No, because the delightful is not as delightful as before. You see? You're all sedated one level down. So it's good for recovery, but it's not good for your life. Okay? So don't make that mistake. And then you get endogenous dopamine. Endogenous dopamine causes addiction and visualization. Now, some of you may know Regu. He has Parkinson's. And I know him very well, and they give him dopamine for his motor activity. And Regu is an artist. After his dopamine, his paintings became better because of visualization. Okay? But dopamine is also addiction. So meditators meditate and meditate and meditate. And the meditation and the addiction causes them to be drawn into the meditation, which brings them to their parietal going down. Okay? That's the high point. The parietal going down, the nirvanic feeling, that's the high point of meditation. That's where they're going. Okay, the scientists also invented this, they call the God helmet. They stimulate the temporal lobe. And when people get these things stimulating the temporal lobe, they experience what they perceive as God. 80% of the participants experience a presence besides themselves in the room. So the presence of God, feeling that this is God, is all in the temporal lobe. Now, I want to talk about this feature, about their beliefs, okay? Now, talk about pantheism. Now, what is pantheism? Pantheism talks about God as an essence, energy, gravity, that kind of thing. And because it's everywhere and it's gravity is just kind of energy is going through us and in the flowers and the trees, therefore, energy or God is in everything. That's pantheism. God is not a person, God is energy. Okay? That's pantheism. Now, when Kellogg's heresy started in 1897 and ended in 1903 when Ellen White chucked it out, that was pantheism. Ellen White and the leaders called it pantheism because Kellogg said God is in the flowers and the trees and everything as an essence. Now, what's this picture here is about panentheism. Panentheism has the word "en" additional to pantheism. En means within. Now here they're introducing the idea that God is as the person is within every man. That's panentheism. Okay? So pantheism is like Buddhism, there's no God. Panentheism is like Hinduism, with a God, the person, but in every man. The moment you're born. It's like the immortal soul. Right? It's another word for the immortal soul. Okay? So that's panentheism. Now, this man is a Zen master. And here, when I was learning Zen and doing Zen, there was no person of God. It was energy. All right? But here, this man is now talking about God. He's saying, we do not have to look for God. We do not have to look for our ultimate dimension or nirvana, because we are nirvana. We are God. So what I'm trying to say to you is, the Zen people who never talked about God as a person, now talking in the middle, God as a person. Right? They're coming to God as a person. Okay? But this man who doesn't understand God at all, okay? Or the cross. And here he's saying, the image of Jesus that is presented to us is usually of Jesus on the cross. This is a very painful image for me. It does not convey joy or peace, and this does not do justice to Jesus. I hope that our Christian friends will also portray Jesus in other ways, like sitting in the lotus position or doing walking meditation. Doing so will allow us to feel peace and joy penetrating into our hearts when we contemplate Jesus. This is my suggestion. So he doesn't understand the cross, but he's talking about God. He's talking about God as the person in the middle. All right? Now, this is a Catholic monk. He is the inventor of centering prayer, which is teaching like 50,000 Catholics every year, a mantra-based. Okay? And this is what he's saying about centering prayer, 3 steps to becoming God. All right? So, you get the pantheist talking about God, and now we're hearing the Catholics who believe in the person of God talking about God, but not God as God the person, but God as the One. The One with a capital O. You listen to him in a while. The One is not God the person, but the God of the One, the big one of every religion. You follow this? The God of Hindus, the God of Zen, the God of any faith, but the generic God. They're drawing everybody into this God. All right? Listen to him and see what you think. Now, he's talking about 3 steps in centering prayer to become God. The spiritual journey It's the realization that not just the information, but the real interior conviction that there is a higher power or God. Or to make it as easy as possible for everybody, there is an other, capital O. Why capital O? Why an other? A generic God. Okay? Second step, to try to become the other, still a capital O. Third step. And finally, the third step. And finally, the realization that there is no other. You and the other are one. Always have been, always will be. You just think you aren't. All right, so he's saying, actually, in the third step in meditation, centering prayer, you discover that you and the other are one. And he said, there's no other. In other words, you and God are one, so one that you can't tell yourself from God as different. Right? And he said, have always been, will always be. Have always been from birth. Will always be, he will never leave you. And if you think God is not with you, it's your fault. You're not meditating. You see where they're going? Okay? So, meditation is to bring you in union with God. That's the whole purpose of it. Now, Lee Kuan Yew, my late Prime Minister, meditated. After the financial crisis in 2008, after his wife passed away, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't rest, and so a friend of his brought him to a Benedictine monk in London. Now, this is a good story because it tells you that you don't have to do, you can do whatever mantra you want. It was all in the newspapers. The Benedictine monk said to Mr. Lee, you can choose Ome Tofut or Maranatha. And in the newspapers, Lee Kuan Yew said, I chose Maranatha because it's easier on my English tongue. I'm English educated. So he used Maranatha. And after 3 years, they produced this video. Okay, you look. I've taken 4 clips, and I'll read it to you, and you see what you think. Okay. So the monk is asking him a question: has meditation given you a sense of what the spiritual values of life mean? And Mr. Lee says it makes him realize that there is an inner self. Now remember, Mr. Lee doesn't believe in God. All right, he's made it very clear. But Mr. Lee discovers an inner self. Okay? Now, what does the monk say? And you wouldn't call that a spiritual discovery? Or a spiritual discovery not religious? Now, what does it mean? Mr. Lee says, I discovered an inner self. The monk suggests you wouldn't call that a spiritual discovery? In other words, everyone, whether you believe in God or not, in meditation, you discover an spiritual inner self, not amounting to religious. In other words, everybody has the inner self, whether you're religious or not. You follow this? So now, the meditators are claiming this. Meditation will make religion obsolete, because you all have an inner self waiting to be discovered. Whether you like it or not, you have it, and therefore it makes discovering or having that spiritual inner self the important thing. Religion, doctrine, truth, your denominations, boom, gone. That is where they're going. And this is the basis of unity, of all religion. So I'm going to trace the history of this pantheism, panentheism. I call it non-duality. The reason I call it non-duality is this. And it's a word that is in the language. Okay, non-dual is this. I did this two-side thing, right? Non-dual is good, evil. Non-dual is good, evil. Non-dual is as one. I don't distinguish you from them. I don't distinguish you from them. It's non-two, one. Okay? So, it's not, oh, I have an attitude. I don't care to sit with you. I don't care to sit with you. I'm splitting you up. No, I put you together. So I'm more loving. I don't distinguish. You're both okay with me. That's more elevated. Okay? Non-dual. try to think this way as I go through my talk, okay? Okay, so it started here. In Garden of Eden, the foundation was laid, all right? Satan said to Eve, come on over, eat of my tree. Don't worry about distinguishing. God said you can't eat of this tree. No, we don't have to differentiate. Everything is non-dual. Come over. God is good, yes, but come over and know good and evil. In other words, come over. If Eve had come over and known the difference between good and evil, Eve would have gone back. So what he said was, come on over, and you don't have to differentiate between good and evil. Non-dual, combine good and evil. Go beyond this distinction. One. Okay? Y'all got it? Non-dual. Okay? So I thought about spying for both sides and all that, right? Now, there was the Tower of Babel soon after that. And the Tower of Babel is not just about fearing that God would flood the world again. It's a mistrust for God and uniting to make a name for themselves against God. That's what the Tower of Babel is. It's unity against God. All right? Then there was sun worship, and then there was panentheism already, because Nimrod was made a god after he died. So the immortal soul, or the divinity of God, is already in man at that point, the idea. And at that point, there was the word Om, 200 years after Tower of Babel, in Sanskrit, in Hinduism. Om is that boom, that brass bowl, that resonating sound going throughout the universe. And as you meditate, you follow that sound and it fills the universe. That's how it helps. It's an aid to meditation. 200 years after Tower of Babel. Now, what does Om mean? Om is Atman and Brahman as one. That is, God and man are one. So when you heard Father Thomas Keating say, 3 steps to becoming God, he is talking Hinduism. And in other books, he's supporting yoga, he's supporting Kundalini energy. That's where they're going. And I talked about this, I think, International Yoga Day. It's an all-inclusive humanity. It's about unity. It's a union of all polarities. In other words, not two, but one. A unity. So, International Yoga Day, 3 months ago, was about unity, not yoga. It's only the platform for unity. Now, this is a picture I got from the internet. The artists seem to know what they're saying. It's about yin-yang. What it says is that here, the black, here is the bad. And the white is here's the good. And here is the bad, the black dot in the good. The black, the bad in the good. And here is the good in the bad. And when you put it together, here's life. The artists seem to know these things. But we who look around it every day don't seem to realize it's about evil, good and evil as one. As one in our life. It's a suggestion, right? That's what it means. And Tai Chi. Tai Chi is not about balance of polarities, hard and soft. It's about merging them into one. The master in Tai Chi is the one who's merged opposites, polarities, good and evil, life and death, as one supreme ultimate. That's the master. If you're a novice, they're still separate. Okay? That's Tai Chi, that's what it means. Alright? The artists also know what it means because they put the angel and the halo on one side, and they put the pitchfork and the horns and the tail on the other. Right? It's good and evil as one. I was in Korea and I was sitting in the plane and I said, "My, the Korean Airlines is a yin-yang." And then when I got to Korea, I said, "My, you guys got a pakwa on top of the yin-yang." And I was sitting with a professor of New Testament for breakfast. And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Mindfulness." And I said, "Is it happening here in Korea, mindfulness?" He said, No. And then I said, "Do you know the Korean flag has got it Oh, he says, yeah. It's the only, he called it a philosophical flag. But no, it's a spiritualistic flag. Okay? I didn't argue that. But then after my devotional, divine devotion talk, another professor from the faculty of psychology came up to me and said, do you know our faculty, psychology, they are big on mindfulness. Okay, so it's everywhere. And what not surprising is in Korea, in our own Samyuk University. Okay, the black and white is interlocked. It can't get out. Good and evil are like inseparable. In Taoism, the meditator always claims his body is bad, but he's always got a good spirit, a little man. So it's good and bad in one. Right? The modern cartoons tell the same story. And the words there says, hi, I'm the real property. This is the real me. The real me is my spirit. My body can do anything, but my spirit, the motivation, always good. Right? So it's in our modern thought. Can you see the live and evil? To live is to be evil. You see it? The ideas are all in there, right? Now, Greek philosophy, the flesh is corrupt, spirit is good. Flesh is corrupt, it's evil. Spirit is good, but they are in one, non-dual philosophy. Okay, Greek philosophy again. Thesis, antithesis. Truth is not here, it's not there. It's in the middle, somewhere, synthesis. That's Greek philosophy. Non-dual. Right? Christians say, truth is here, evil is here. They're separate. Greek is not. Buddhism, there's a little baby embryo in Buddha. Meditation is listening to the divine within, the good within. Right? Everybody has good and evil as one. So if you feel evil or you do evil, it's okay. That's the suggestion. The kids are playing this kind of game, beyond good and evil. Right? They're making this kind of graphics, the good evil. Yeah, it's combination, right? Can you see the evil and the good? Yeah. So these ideas of bringing these two things together. Hamlet, Shakespeare, there is nothing either good or bad, but only thinking makes it so. It's not absolute, It's good, bad. No. You think, it's how you think. It's like Greek philosophy. Right? The absolutes are being broken up. Now, the emerging church, the leaders are writing books. The title of the books are to shake up your reality. The titles are like this: Breathing Underwater. Shakes up your reality, Falling Upwards. Right? Shakes your reality up. And it's dangerous stuff. And then they introduce all these ideas. Now, yin yang has a rainbow around it now. And what's the sign of the rainbow now? Not boy, not girl. Right? Boy and girl, same. Not boy, not girl. Fluid gender. I was looking at a magazine. I said, oh, this is a very good-looking girl. And then I read it and said, fluid gender. In other words, this model, the first generation of fluid gender models. Today they're modeling boys' clothes. Tomorrow it's girls' clothes. The next day is boys' clothes. Fluid gender. Okay, this is Baphomet. This is a real statue they put in Detroit opposite the Ten Commandments. BBC went and to find out what is it all about. And this is what BBC found out. Baphomet is a hermaphrodite, not man, not woman. He joins together human and animal, male and female, above and below, heaven and hell. He embodies opposite things as one. He celebrates contrast. He reconciles opposites, differences without a conflict. In other words, opposites can become one. It's not like boom, like that. It's to be celebrated. In other words, you don't distinguish. That's Baphomet. Okay? He is the God of non-dual. You follow this? And he's to be put opposite the Ten Commandments in Detroit. Why? And they say this, to be set with the Ten Commandments, not in opposition, but in celebration of contrast. In other words, the Ten Commandments is there, they put Bab Homet here. It's not to clash, it's to celebrate that we can be enlightened to have both at the same place. Because this is the nature of evil. It's not black anymore. It's the ability and the enlightenment to be able to see both as one. That's where it's going. And you notice his finger, not two, but one. That is the nature of evil. Okay? Now, what's the difference between Bab Homet and evolution? Not much, huh? Now, this is Abraxas, and this quote is from Carl Jung, noted psychiatrist. Who is Abraxas, all right? Abraxas speaketh that haloed and accursed word, which is life and death at the same time. Abraxas begetteth truth and lying, good and evil, light and darkness, in the same word, in the same act. Wherefore, Abraxas is terrible. So, Abraxas is like Bab Homet. The height of evil is to be combining life and death, good and evil in the same together. Now, as I research this, I begin to think about myself, how I must think. That in my life, spiritual life, I must distinguish. And the word for distinguishing, to be separate, is sanctification. Okay? That's the word. And that word is not popular anymore. I don't hear that word much. It's almost like old-fashioned. Sanctification. In sanctification, what does it say? If we are like, let's say 100 people here, and we are all one with Christ, that's sanctification. There's nothing more for us to want than to be one with Christ, right? So sanctification means that, because in Hebrews 2:11 it says this, both he who sanctifies and we who are sanctified both become one. For which cause he is not ashamed to call us brethren. That is oneness. That is unity with God. True sanctification, not through Eastern meditation. Alright? So, this word is crucial for our spiritual life. So, Abraxas is like Bab Homet. He's the god of non-dual. He's Satan. But then mindfulness has gone into Time Magazine, into young people. Goldman Sachs board member does mindfulness. He introduced it into Goldman Sachs, which is a top bank, and the line to do meditation is like miles long. It can't be satisfied in a whole year. That's how popular it is. In G20, which is top 20 nations, two persons, an actress and a French monk, there to teach our leaders meditation, mindfulness. Okay, now this is Thomas Merton. All the courses, even in our theology, Andrews and all that, that teaches spiritual formation, he is required reading. Okay? Now, the Pope, when he went to Congress in September 2015, directed Congress' attention to Thomas Merton. And I'm going to quote him. As I read him, think about this. His quote, whatever he say, is it similar or the same as what Satan said from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Okay? Did he say the same meaning? Did he convey the same meaning as Satan from that tree? Okay? At the center of our being is a point of nothingness, which is untouched by sin and by illusion, a point of pure truth, a point or spark which belongs entirely to God. Because when you die, there is all that is left. When we die, everything is destroyed except this one thing, which is our reality that God preserves forever. He will not permit its final destruction. For it is from that center that everything else comes. Contemplative prayer, which he invented, is nothing other than coming into consciousness of what is already there. Okay. So did Father Thomas Merton say, you will not surely die? Huh? You will not die. That spark will live forever. God will preserve it. It's your spark too, you know. It's God's spark, but it's also you. You know? Okay? You will not surely die. Did he say your eyes will be open? He said, contemplative prayer is nothing other than coming into consciousness. That's having your eyes open. Did he say you will be as gods? That spark is divine. It's 100% God. It's also you. You are divine. Did he say you can do both good and evil? He said that spark is untouched by sin. You can sin and it's still untouched by sin. So he spoke like Satan. This is the man the Pope referred to for the unity of all religion and unity of all people when he told Congress how to do it. So this tree is where it all started. Okay, here's the Pope speaking to Congress, and he used these words. Another temptation, he's talking to them to unite people and religion, all people and religion. Another temptation which we must especially guard against, the simplistic reductionism which sees only good or evil, or if you will, the righteous and sinner. He's saying, don't distinguish. Confront every form of polarization. What does that mean? Confront, face every form of polarization. Don't distinguish. How? Then you will achieve peace between people and religion. So peace in the contemplative style of Thomas Merton. There's the whole Congress right there. Now, nobody at that time, or very few, knew who Father Thomas Merton was. The Google search engine was hot to find out who Father Thomas Merton was. And this is who he is. The founder of contemplative prayer. To unite people and religion. And then, the Pope spoke also at United Nations the very next day. And after he spoke, they sang, Shakira, singer, sang him a song in honor of him. And the song was John Lennon's Imagine There's No Heaven. Now, some of you may have been old enough like me to know that song 50 years ago. And the lyrics go, imagine there's no heaven, no hell below us, and no religion too, and the world will be as one. Now, as a pope, head of religion, distinguishing between heaven and hell, how can this song be in honor of him? But he accepted it. He knew what was coming, I'm sure. Now, what is the inspiration for this song? Where did it come from? The Beatles were meditating with Maharishi Guru. In meditating with Maharishi Guru, transcendental meditation, came out this song. Imagine no heaven, no hell. Right? And no religion too. And the whole world is as one. It's better to have no religion. No distinguishing. That is where it came from. United Nations has a meditation room, but it's not about meditation. It's about world unity. Now, this Pope is a Pope who believes as a Jesuit of God in all things. He is a panentheistic Pope. Now, we talked about pantheism, which is wrong, and we talked about panentheism. Now, the difference here, these two are virtually the same, because here, God the person penetrates and operates and saturates the orange part until the orange part is like the blue part. So, pantheism is inside panentheism. They are both just as bad. And you saw, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen guy, came in the middle. Right? Thomas Merton, who talks about God, the person, also come to the other, capital O. So they're coming to this place. But the truth is actually theism, where God created the universe, and for those in the universe who opens his heart to God, God sanctifies them. Right? But we choose to work with God, to be sanctified. That is truth. But pantheism and panentheism sandwiches this truth. And they talk on either side and you don't know what they're saying. It sounds as if sometimes these people talk like this and these people talk like this. You think they're talking truth. But you've got to listen very carefully. And I'll show you some examples later. Okay, Ellen White said this. Heathenism revived, man of sin exposed. As we near the close of time, there will be greater and still greater external parade of heathen power. Heathen deities will manifest their signal power and will exhibit themselves before the cities of the world. Now, before the Western cities, you do not expect a Thaipusam parade. But now, yoga is International Yoga Day. The white folks are doing yoga under the Eiffel Tower. Right? Is that not a signal power of Eastern deities? It is. Don't expect a Thaipusam over there. All right, now, getting back to our denomination. 1903 and a few years back, there was this heresy called the Alpha heresy. Alpha, the beginning. Okay? And it was by Dr. Kellogg. And it was described as pantheism. And Ellen White told us, after she defeated this, in 1904, she said, for those of us who lived through this era and should know, we must know what the Alpha heresy is, that we may not fall prey to the Omega. The Omega will be so much more powerful that she said, I tremble for my people. So we've got to study the Alpha is pantheism. So the one development of pantheism is panentheism. Now we've got to study what this is, so that we understand this train of heresies. Now, Alpha is not different, the Omega is not different from the Alpha. It is a development, because it's from the same train, she said, a train of heresies, okay? So what happened was, Kellogg was pantheistic. And then he went to, in 1903, he went to A.G. Daniels, and A.G. Daniels then wrote to W.C. White. Kellogg told me, A.G. Daniels, that he now believed in God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. And his view was that it was God the Holy Ghost and not God the Father that filled all space and everything in it. So initially he was like, oh, God is the energy in everything. There's a God maker in the flower. Okay? But then he began to change his mind. He said to A.G. Daniels, he said, no. There's God the Father and God the Son. They are the persons. But it's the Holy Spirit that fills everything. He began to say that in 1903. So he was going panentheistic. God the person is still God the person. You see? He was going from one to the other himself. Okay? And E.J. Wegener then went over to his side. Right? I love reading Wegener's books, all right, 1888 and all that, and we should all read it. His switch to Kellogg, to Kellogg began only in about the 1900s. So he was good in 1888, okay? There is a difference, all right? Wegener is saying, there is a difference as great as the distance between heaven and earth and the east and the west, between truth that God is in everything, which is panentheism, and the lie that everything is God, pantheism. Indeed, there is no alternative between the truth that God is in everything, panentheism, and pantheism. The truth, God is above all and through all and in all, which is panentheism, is the sure safeguard against the error that everything is God. So I'm showing this because Wegener also went from, he's saying pantheism is wrong, but panentheism is right. Okay? That's the purpose of that slide. All right? This is in 1903. He said that. And Wegener kept saying, every man, God is in every man. We must recognize that He is in everything. So Wegener was on in everything and in every man. Right? He was both pantheistic and panentheistic. Okay, as I talk to my friends, some of them say, but isn't God in every man? We are made in the image of God. God breathed into us and we've got life. Right? That's very different, That you are alive and breathing. God is keeping you alive. But He's not God in you. He's keeping everything alive. He's keeping the dogs alive. It's very different. Now, image of God. We're all made in the image of God. Isn't that God in every man? No. When we say we are made in the image of God, we mean this. Man is intentionally constituted to know God. We are formed to know God. But if we don't refuse to know Him, we are not living up to that image, the purpose. Okay? Man is subject to moral authority, to God's law, and God is to His law, for the purpose of wisdom, holiness, righteousness, and embody God's moral character. So it's about man being made in the moral image to fulfill that purpose. It's not God is in you from birth. It's a different meaning. Okay? Now, where is this non-dual stuff in the Bible? Right? That's the most important, right? Okay. Now, the Bible tells you there are people who take light for darkness and darkness for light. Light, darkness, same. Non-dual. Okay? Mixing the two, not differentiating. And then, in Ezekiel 8:16, in the tabernacle, the people of God are worshipping the sun. What day do you think they were worshipping the sun? On a Sabbath? No. They were in the sanctuary worshipping the sun on a Sunday. Two things, mixing the two. Right? And then, what about lukewarm? Laodicean condition. Imagine two taps. Hot water, cold water. You want lukewarm, you mix the two. Not two, but one. Lukewarm, Laodicean condition. Non-dual. Apostate Israel. Satan didn't say to Israel, come on over and worship me only. He never said that. He said, you worship both God and me. It's okay. That is evil. Right? Elijah said, yeah, if God is God, follow him. Baal is Baal, follow him. Choose. Distinguish. That's what we are told to do. And in Zephaniah 1:7, it says this. Right? This is a key text for this. Zephaniah 1:7 says, hold thy peace at the presence of the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is at hand. And it shall, Zephaniah 1:12, and it shall come to pass at that time that I will search Jerusalem and with candles and punish men that are settled on their lease. Now the word lease means sediment. Men at that time, and that was in relation to Jerusalem, but the day of the Lord, if you project it forward as a prophetic, the day of the Lord is when Jesus comes. God will seek out the men who are so settled in their minds, settled like sediment. Lease is like sediment. So settled. What is this sediment? That say in their heart, the Lord will not do good, neither will He do evil. They change the personality of God as not God of absolute good, but He will not do good, not do evil. He is neither good nor evil. Okay? That's Zephaniah. And in Malachi 2:17, which we read this morning, ye have wearied the Lord with your words. Yet you say, wherein have we wearied him? When ye say, everyone that doeth evil is good in the sight of the Lord, and he delighteth in them, or where is the God of judgment? In other words, you do evil, and God delights in you as if you do good. If you don't distinguish between good and evil, there is no judgment. Right? If you don't distinguish, and God doesn't distinguish between good and evil, where is that judgment? And then our message, the hour of judgment is gone. If we don't believe in distinguishing between good and evil, don't believe in sanctification, there is no judgment. So that's why I've highlighted the first angel's message as the power and truth in the three angels' message. Because it speaks of the Sabbath day. It speaks of the Sabbath day as a sign of faith of our sanctification. That's why the first message also speaks of judgment. So, meditation, the alpha heresy, if it now becomes the omega, will destroy. If it comes into our church, will destroy our church. And Ellen White said it will sweep away the whole Christian economy out there. If it comes in, it will sweep us away as well. That's the omega. So she said, the wine of Babylon. 2 active ingredients. The immortal soul and Sunday. That's the strength. She said the foundation of evil was laid in Eden. The foundation was the immortal soul. Now, why is the foundation why is the evil of the immortal soul so strong? Because it suggests to you that the moment you're born, we're all born with the likeness of sinful flesh. We're born without the Holy Spirit. Okay? We're not born guilty of sin. No, I'm not suggesting that. But as we grow up, we realize that we steal and we do evil things and we're not good and we need conversion. But to believe that when we were born, the moment we were born, we had the presence of God with us. That we are born both good and evil at the same time. That is evil. Right? That's why the immortal soul is so frighteningly deceptive. And so the immortal soul is the foundation, is the strength of evil. And it's identified in the second angel's message. So it started there. It will be developed little by little over time until it becomes the masterpiece of Satan's deception. Now, I just want to very quickly run through what you've seen so far, right? So it was laid in Eden, that strength of foundation, and then it was developed, and you saw Then you saw Greek philosophy and Buddhism and Hinduism. You saw Tai Chi and Shakespeare in the arts, right? And then you can see its meditation all the way, right? Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and now it's developed into mental health, into mindfulness. It's in our school system. It's in the middle of Australia, in the desert. It's entered into systems of education, systems of therapy, and it'll go everywhere. And it's in church now. So, 6 years ago, when I saw it coming into church, not particularly our church, my focus was on Rick Warren, right? My focus was on Brian McLaren and all those gurus of the Christian church adopting this. And I was like shocked. That's when I began to research. And then Dr. Nedley asked me to speak in the US to give the science against it. So I did. And a lot of our elderly or well-established church members heard the material, the science this morning, and asked me back to speak. And as I speak, more people are hearing about it, and it's growing. People are very interested. So it's not because the material is special, because it is relevant. Okay? It is relevant because the time for which it is used is now. It's growing. It's a platform for unity of all churches, all people, and all religion. So, the foundation and strength of evil is in the second message. Our strength is in righteousness by faith, which is the first message. And it's going to clash. And we are a people given this special message by a prophet of God. Now, I've been studying the Bible. I've been looking at what the East says and what all these gurus say and all this Brian McLaren and all these Christian gurus say. But without Ellen White, I cannot put these pieces together. I cannot join the pieces together. And it's because of what she says that the pieces fall into place and the picture emerges. And every day as I read what's happening, she and her writings and our message is becoming more and more relevant every day. Without her, we will not know this. And as I study, I'm motivated to know that we are a blessed people. We have a message for the world. But it's based on us needing to be righteous, needing to be righteous in our own lives to differentiate between good and evil. When we care to differentiate in our own lives, then evil looks more evil. It's more than saying, I'm not doing meditation, so I'm okay. It's not that. So, the righteousness message, righteousness by faith message, is our strength, our personal strength. And we need to have that before anything moves in our life. Now, the three angels' message is a message of love. Because the people, God's remnant, the people of God's heart, in love, are prepared to lay down their lives for their friends in Babylon. Come out of her, my people. They care not about their lives. They love not their lives unto death. And there's no greater love than when a man lays down his life for his friend. So the people of God are called to the highest level of love. And it is in love, it is perfect love that casts out fear. They are fearless because of love. So it's a high calling. And we need, as a people, as individuals, to rise up to this calling. We will be set free. Selfishness cut from our soul to do God's work. So this message is a blessing to us. It came through a prophet. It is a blessing to us as a special people of God. So please study it, meditate on it, and may we be true to our calling, that we may keep the faith of Christ. Here are the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus Christ. All right?